Where's Fielder? He's gone to the dogs.
The Gone to the Dogs podcast with your host Steve Fielder is on the air one more time, coming at you through the miracle of Al Gore's internet. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm recording this podcast on the day before St. Patrick's Day. For all my Irish friends out there, I wish you a happy St. Paddy's Day. My great-grandpa, John Haley, was a fox hunter in Tennessee, and he's the guy that is most likely responsible for passing the hound hunting gene along through his grandson, Holman Fielder, and ultimately his great-grandson, Steve Fielder, talking to you today. So anyway, all you Irish out there, enjoy I hope you had a great St. Paddy's Day. This podcast should be airing on March the 20th, and we have chosen a theme for this one called Too Old to Quit. I wrote about an essay in my book by that title. It's a fiction piece about a grandfather and his grandson. If you've read the book, you'll recognize it as being the last essay in the book. And I got to thinking about that because I'm encountering more and more people today that are talking about it may be time, due to their age, possibly their health, to wind it down, maybe put the leashes up for the last time. And for many of them, it would be leaving behind a hobby or a lifestyle that they've enjoyed their entire lives. And I know at age 76, that day is not that far away for me. I'm hoping, as you'll see from some of my guests today, that it'll last a lot longer. I'm very privileged to have 3 guests on the program today, and I'm not going to spoil it by giving you their names or anything like that. I just want to tell you that if you are a little long in the tooth out there and you've been thinking about those hills are getting too steep and those swamps getting too deep, well, I think you may enjoy this podcast as you hear the stories of some from your generation and my generation who have considered perhaps quitting this game of coon hunting, but yet they've persevered and continued right on and are enjoying it possibly as much as they ever did. So I hope you enjoy the podcast today, and let's get right into it. My first guest today will be Jim Garrison from the state of Missouri. My conversation with Jim is already in progress. Well, as we were talking there, you were telling me that Rayville is a town within the Kansas City area, right?
Yeah, greater metropolitan area. We're out in the country, thank God.
Yeah. Well, you're pretty happy, I guess, with the Super Bowl outcome.
Oh my gosh, we're still excited about it. Some people's blood pressure ain't went down yet.
That was a good game. You know, I kind of got down on the NFL when all the kneeling started and all, but
we all did.
Yeah, but I think they've kind of got things back into perspective now. And so Ella and I enjoyed the game, and it was a good game right down to the wire. And
it's the only game I've watched replays on in my life. Watched the whole thing, every second of it. But then I've been watching the last 5-minute replays of that. Gosh, that was exciting.
Yeah, it really, really was.
I was a big Chiefs fan in 18 and a senior in high school and watched them win their first Super Bowl.
Oh,
and
man.
Then all through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I was a good fan, but they got close to one little playoff game and would lose every one. So what we're experiencing now with the Chiefs is us good, solid fans are reaping a reward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Won 2 Super Bowls, and it's just unbelievable
Well,
If my dad said
yeah.
it, he wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, really. Well, that calls to mind my brother-in-law, who was a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan through all their. I mean, he bought season tickets the first year they brought a team to Tampa.
Wow.
And he was a faithful fan through those miserable seasons
Yeah.
and all the changes and everything. And he passed away in June of the year that they won the Super Bowl in the fall.
Oh, no
And
fair.
yeah, it was not fair. We were so disappointed that Charlie didn't get to see his Bucks, win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But, well, good for you guys out there in Kansas City, and I'm glad for you. Well, yeah, absolutely. Mahomes is the guy that everybody, I think, is watching really closely. He's quite a guy and seems to be a well-rounded guy. Well, Jimmy, I did not call you to talk about football, but I did have to get that in.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention just briefly while I have you in the guest chair here. Our friend Jim Cannon, who passed away just this last year. Now, he was out there in your area as well, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Right. Yeah.
I'm on the northeast side of Kansas City, and he was on the southwest side.
Right.
Took me about a touch over an hour to get to him.
I got you. Well,
Lewisburg, Kansas.
Yep. I had the opportunity when I went out to the Garmin headquarters there in Olathe to go and hunt one night with Jim. And, of course, he and I had been friends for years. We really hate to lose these people. And,
yes.
The good plot people, especially, for us.
Yep. He was a good plot man and a good friend.
Absolutely. Well, the guy that I wanted to talk to you today about is a fellow that I don't think anybody in the country knew any better than you did. Knew him any better than you did. You guys traveled to plot days for many years, and I want to ask you about that. But Warren Wilson of Stover, Missouri. I remember Warren very well from way back in the days, when I started going to plot days and through the years there in 79 and 80 when I was president and then on the board and different things, but Warren was always there. Jim, tell the listeners a little bit about Warren and his background there. And I think he went to what was plot days. He never missed one, or it's quite phenomenal. Talk about your old friend a little bit.
Well, he was born and raised in the Ozarks and was just a average country boy, tending cows and hogs and all that, maybe even some sheep. And he hunted, had squirrel dogs, but there wasn't very many coons back in those days. He went off to World War II and gave him 4 years and got to come home without a scratch. He was on a ship headed for Japan whenever the surrender happened, and they announced, we're turning this ship around, boys, going back to the U.S. The war is over. And that was a story, boy, but just really emotional.
Sure.
Most of them thought they was going to die. So, yeah. Anyway, he got home from World War II and told his dad, said, I want a tree dog. And his dad was a fox hunter. He had a good pack of dogs. He won the Missouri State Fox Hunt in 1946. And so they looked around, went down, and bought some dog and tried him. And now he didn't work out. So he said, I'm going to try one of those plot hounds I've been hearing about. It's a new breed. So he got this little 6-month-old plot male. I forget who he got him from. I think that man up in Iowa, southern Iowa, that was a breeder. And he took him hunting, and he ran him treed the first night out at 6 months old. And so Warren fell in love with the plot breed. He'd never seen anything like that. And he just continued developing plots. He had Grand Night Champion Wilson's Rusty, Grand Night Champion Wilson's Ranger, and a whole bunch of other good females. And I remember as a small boy sitting down in a dog pen, about 3 different females that had 10 or 12 pups. and they was all together in the same big pen, and here they come. I was covered in plot puppies. So when I was 15 years old, I'd been hunting a couple of times with a buddy, and Warren gave me a young saddleback plot male, and that was my start in the plot breed. I'm 72 now and still got plots tied up down back. I hunted the hunts with my plots, and Gil Rainey was on the Kansas side, good friend of Jim Cannon's, and we was the only plot people for quite a few years at these UKC hunts around the country. And people would come up to us and look at our dogs, say, is that a plot hound? Yeah, we'd try to give them a little bit of their history, nice about it.
Yeah.
But afterwards, a few years later, if anybody said something about a plot, I said, a plot's won the UKC World Championship, and a plot has won the PKC World Championship. Now, if you don't know what a plot hound is, I'd say you don't get out much. That's what I tell them nowadays.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, but you still draw out with people that say, I've never hunted with a plot. But,
Yeah.
well,
Well,
they are on the bottom of the popularity scale. But I think 10, 20 years from now, it might be a little different because a lot of people are bringing up some awful good young plot dogs.
yeah. Well, I'm hopeful for sure.
Yeah,
And
you got a
with
nice
my
young dog.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we do. My partner Mark Miller down in North Carolina, he and I partnered on a puppy that we got from uh,
Bill
Bill
Coon.
Shaniger out there
Yeah.
that has the Lazarus dog.
Boy, he's going to town, that dog. Yeah.
Well, we're having a lot of fun with him. We just hope the bubble don't break like that balloon, that's been flying around here. But
we got a 3-year-old that we made night champion this past year, and got that HTX on the end of his name. And whenever that first came around, I was one of its fans. If you get 3 good, honest judges to sign off on that dog and go hunting and strike and tree a coon, I think that's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, it is, Jim, and I agree with you. In the years that I was at the registries, people would say, talk about these cheap night champions, and there's night champions out there that can't tree their own coon and they won't go hunting by themselves and yada, yada, yada. So this HTX title kind of puts all that to rest,
Yep.
Dogs have got to do it all on his own.
Right. Under 3 different judges. It can be the same club. It has to be different judges.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Well, I do too. Now, back talking about Warren Wilson, Warren was in his 90s when he passed, was he not?
97.
97 years old. That's amazing to me. My mother passed this year back in March, and she made it to 100 and 11 days, I believe it was. But I knew that the phenomenal thing about Warren at that age is he was still hunting right up to just about to the end, wasn't he?
Right towards the end, he would stay at the truck, but he had his Garmin in his hand, and he could tell us when we got to the tree, and when we was on the way back from the tree, and how his female did. Me and him got together and gave $5,000 for a little plot female out of Larry's stud dog down there in southern Missouri. And she was a dandy. And we bought her to hunt, of course, but to breed to my tracks dog, and my Grand Night Champion tracks dog. And she come down with cancer of the uterus, and we had to have her spaded. And that was hard to take, but we had an awful good coon dog for quite a few years. One of Warren's buddies is still hunting her, and she's a fantastic little dog. She's treated us a lot of coons.
That's awesome. Well, you and Warren also owned a dog together, a stud dog, the Thunder dog, didn't you?
Yeah, we did, and we had bad luck with him, too. We gave big money for him, bought him from Larry DePoster over in Illinois. And I felt sorry for Larry after he sold him to us. He would call about twice a week. How's that dog doing? Now, if you guys aren't happy, I'll sure give you your money back.
Yeah.
We was happy for him. He had a good mouth, hard tree dog. When he was down the holler and treat all by himself on a frosty November night, it sounded like 6 dogs down there. Gosh, that dog can bark.
Mm-hmm.
But he came down with cancer of the tail and had to have a certain part of it cut off. Then he had cancer of his testicles. And we
Oh boy.
tried, we only took one off, and hopefully, it only takes one, but that didn't pan out. We got 1 or 2 litters out of him.
Mm.
And the ones that, the one good cross was that dog that Ron Miller owned. And Rex Morgan up in Iowa had a lot to do with her. They made tree dogs. They made good
Yeah.
dogs.
Well, I know a little bit about those dogs because the old hoss dog that I hauled around all over the country for several years was a half brother to Thunder. He was out of the Boland's Clyde dog too. So yeah, I know what you're talking about when you talk about ringing those trees. I had quite a few enjoyable hunts with hoss in the White River Refuge there in Arkansas, and actually I counted up. I think it was about 10 or 12 states that I hunted that old dog in and just had a ball with him. Well, okay. Well, what I guess kind of in the theme that I wanted to explore here a little bit is there's a lot of guys, I'm in the boomer generation. You are too, but I'm a little older than you are. These coon hunt night hunts actually kind of kicked into gear about the time I was born. And, my dad got his first registered dog. It was a Plott in 1954. I was 8 years old at the time. But anyway, we're kind of, getting long in the tooth, my generation,
Yeah.
And I just kind of, a lot of guys, once you get past retirement age, really, things start to slow down. I notice it physically. I know you've been through some physical challenges with some surgeries and stuff, but just doggone it, just plain getting old makes it tough to coon hunt.
Yeah. And them young guys leave you in the dust. That's my big gripe.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the tree that their dog's tied back and waiting for you so they can start shining.
Yeah.
And that makes you hurry up and you're out of breath when you get there.
Yeah, I know that feeling very, very well. And
all these dogs, they let them all get separated and treed. I saw them oaks 2 or 3 years ago, and all we did was run from one tree to the next, the whole 2 hours in the same patch of woods. Oh, gosh, yes.
Yeah, it's a different game for sure. This is a little side story here, and I'll try to make it brief. Back in 1997, my dad was still living, and we had Plott days at Pomeroy, Ohio. I'm sure you were there.
Yeah, several times.
Yeah, and Dad decided he wanted to hunt in the veterans cast or the senior cast on Thursday night, and I have a picture of him and the gentleman. There was a guy named Oscar Smith, local there, a blue tick guy that guided the cast, and on the cast was Howard Chester, Moke Anderson, my dad, and a gentleman named Greenlee or Green, I can't remember his last name. He's from Pennsylvania. But Dad hunted in that cast and won the cast. And so then I handled the dog the next 2 nights, and we were lucky enough to win the opposite sex.
Yeah.
And Heath Hyatt with his little brandy female was the overall winner that year.
Yeah.
But I got to thinking about that, and you mentioned this little fever dog that Mark Miller and I have together. And we were talking about Plott days, and he said, Steve, I'm not going to be able to go because I've got a work commitment, a trip that they have planned, all this stuff. And I said, well, maybe I'll just tough it up a little bit and handle the dog at Plott days. And I got to thinking, I'm going to be 76 years old in October. My dad was 76 years old, when he hunted in that veteran's cast at
Oh,
Pomeroy. So
well,
I
you got
said,
to do it, Steve. You got
so
to do
I
it.
guess I'm going to have to tough it up and get myself in shape and go out there and do it. But, Dad was one of those two that really, as he got older, the legs just gave out.
Yeah.
And hunting in those mountains the way he did. And
Oh gosh.
yeah, he was a pipe fitter by trade, so his knees, hips, joints, and
Yeah.
all. He had hip
Hmm.
replacement surgery and all. But there's these tough guys like Warren Wilson that
Oh,
just seem to stick with it
yeah.
forever. What do you attribute Warren's toughness and his longevity to?
Well, I've thought about it and talked about it and read about it, and it's the genes you inherit the moment you're conceived or born. That's what it's got to be. I've had this old coon hunter, Harold Titchener. He bred
Mm.
3 different females several times to my Grand Night Champion Ranger dog that's
Mm-hmm.
in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
And he didn't smoke, he didn't drink, he didn't carouse. He was just a good Sunday school boy his entire life. And towards the end of his life, he had to have a bunch of different operations. And he was a plot man in
Oh, yeah.
North Central Missouri. And he knew Warren and his hunting buddy Billy Jean, and they'd hunted together a couple times. And he said, Warren has smoked for 50 years. I said, yeah. And he ain't shy about taking a snort of whiskey. I said, no. And he said he drove a truck and took those little white Benny pills. He said they didn't work. It took one leaving New Jersey after taking a load of hogs up. Took another one halfway back, and it couldn't keep him awake or nothing. He finally got home and laid down in bed and said all of a sudden his eyes popped open. He jumped up. He said, I baled hay for 2 days.
That's
Oh,
a typical Warren Wilson story right
yes.
there. What a
But,
sense of humor he had,
oh,
man.
he told a million good stories. I wrote about him in our plot yearbook
Mm-hmm.
here several years ago. And I'd encourage people to read those stories, not because of my writing ability, but the stories on Warren. I don't know, they all make me laugh. And I
Oh
live them.
yeah, absolutely. And I guess it was at Plot Days. I think the last one that I attended, I sat with by Warren. I imagine, I don't know if you were there on the other side or not, but in the meeting, I remember sitting with Warren. He was having a little difficulty hearing what was going on
Yeah.
up front, but he was right there, man, and and he was, well into his 90s.
Yeah.
And to me, that is just amazing because he had, if he died at 97, that's 11 years older than what I am right now. And I guess the whole reason for me taking this road on this podcast this time is that, I find myself asking myself, when you going to quit, Steve? When is it going to get to the point where you just can't do this anymore? Thank goodness I'm not to that point yet,
Right.
and then I look at people like Warren and they inspire me,
Yes. I'm in the shape now that he was in when he was 95, and I'm only 72. That
Yeah.
kind of makes me jealous. My gosh, he didn't take care of himself the way he's supposed to, and lived to be 97. And like old Harold Titchener, did everything right and still died way too young. So it's the genes you inherit.
Well,
No doubt about it.
I think that's exactly right. And I mentioned this just a little bit, but it ties in, so I'll throw it in there at no charge. My mother was a Hatfield. My grandfather always said we were not related to those feuding Hatfields, but either Grandpa was trying to fool people or he just didn't know and understand. but I did the research on the family trees, and my mother descended at the same level, a generational level, as Devil Anse Hatfield, the
Oh boy.
leader of the Hatfield clan.
Yeah.
They came down from a pair of brothers, Joseph and Jeremiah, the sons of George Hatfield. It goes back to the early 1700s. But here's the deal. On my mother's side of the family, those guys lived forever. There was a
Oh,
bunch of them in their 90s, and one in her line lived to be 112 years old.
wow. Back
And
in those days.
and you think
Yeah.
about Devil Anse, he died many years before my mother did, but I guess they were killing each other off or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal was, but
Yeah.
I guess at least on that side, I have those genes that I can hope it carries through, but
There you go.
I've already outlived both of my grandfathers. So,
Yeah.
one was 72 and one was 76. So,
Yeah.
but anyway,
you don't want those genes.
no, I'll pass
Nope.
on those. But
Yeah.
that's like my son says about the bald head. He said he got my lousy genes. But that came from that Hatfield side too. So
I had a great grandfather born in 1732, same year as George Washington. He fought in the Revolution, and
wow.
I think he knew George, but he moved to Missouri when he was 100 and died in 1836, 1732, 1836. Buried down there in South Central Missouri,
Goodness.
and lived to be 104 years old.
That's
Back
incredible.
before, yeah.
Boy,
So
the stories he
family
could tell, right?
Yes. He's buried. I've been to his grave several times with the kids. He's buried in a town called Ozark. It's halfway between Springfield, Missouri, and Branson. And
Popular
whole country
area.
knows where Branson is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, have you known other coon hunters that lived to a pretty ripe age, Jim? Or has Warren been pretty much the one?
Yeah. I don't know if any of them past
Mhm.
him. Ralph Hendricks went way too young, I thought.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There were so many, when I was a kid, I would go to plot days and I'd sit there in the corner with my mouth open and my mouth shut and my ears wide open is what I meant to say. Because that's the way it was when you were a kid back in those days. You didn't chime in to those conversations. They'd say, "What do you get? Go outside and play, kid." But
well, I guess in the future, Steve, we might not get to turn dog loose, but we'll be at plot days and enjoy hearing stories and telling a couple.
Yeah.
And, instead of being way up down deep in the brush, 10 o'clock, you'll be in a motel room.
Yeah, and that's kind of a tough deal to do.
I know.
I hunted the last time it wasn't the last time I was at Plot Days, but I hunted at Hallville, Kentucky there across from Tell City and got my dog a cast win that night in the RQE and got the card back 10 minutes late.
Yeah.
And I walked in and there wasn't anybody on the fairgrounds but Gary Cox there working scorecards. He said, "You're late, Fielder." I said, "Yeah, I do." He said, "Well, no, I can't take your card." I said, "Gary, I know you can't, but I thought I'd bring it on back so you at least know that it's a dead cast,
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm the fraternity that we've known down through the years, Jim, with these plot people has been pretty special, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Good friendships and just I feel like they're brothers. So Big Eddie Anderson at Winter Classic a couple of years ago sat there and looked all around. He was all around the plot table there, and he said, "I just love all you guys. You're just all my brothers." Eddie feels it like it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I guess he's our president
He
now.
is. He's the new president of the National Plothound Association from there in Western Kentucky.
And we lost Tony. He was a good president. Great guy. I guess plot days will still be at Flora. this
Yeah.
year. That's where he
It's-
announced, so I don't see how Eddie can change it now.
Yeah, as far as I know, that's the deal. Yeah, that'll be, I think it's in June this year.
June 16, 17, 18, 19, kind of like that.
Okay.
My wife was born in Florida, Illinois.
No way.
Yes, her family's all from that area. And
you know,
glad they ended up over here in Missouri. We celebrated 50 years last June.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
She is a wonderful woman. Steve, I can hand her a serpentine belt and point towards a pickup and say, "Could you put that on there for me, honey?" Well, I will. You got to get all that grease off me if I get any. I will, honey. And Steve, she can look at that diagram underneath the hood and put that on slicker than any mechanic.
My goodness. And a very attractive woman too.
Yes.
So yeah, you did well, Jim. You did extremely well.
I did.
Well, there's a little story about Florida, Illinois, and I'm sure you know it, and your wife probably, but when Ford Motor Company decided to build the Mustang back in 1965, I think was the first year, maybe 64 and a half.
Sure, yeah.
They chose Flora, Illinois as the town to introduce the Mustang to the country.
Wow.
Did you know that?
No.
They had a special parade and all that. Lee Iacocca was the guy that was responsible for the Mustang, and he later went to Chrysler and all that. But yeah, Flora, Illinois. Who would have thunk it? That little town.
Well, that back then it wasn't near as populated as what it is now.
No.
Somebody. My sister had a turquoise 65 Mustang.
Yeah.
Oh, white interior. Oh my goodness. I got all times on the date.
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, my cousin up the street, I was really envious. Her dad got her one of the first ones that came out. It was a yellow one. Had those red striped tires on them. The sidewalls were red. Well, listen, we're going down some rabbit paths here, buddy. But well, Jim, it's just great to talk to you. But what's going on with you, with your dogs, and what's your plans and stuff?
I had to put my old Grand Night Champion track dog down 2 days ago. He was 12 and a half, and he'd become sterile. And I don't let them hang around to where they're down in the back end and all that before I do something with them. But he liked to eat right up until the last day, and I took him to the vet and had him cremated. I couldn't ask my to take him out in the woods or anything like that, like you would with a counterfeit. But he was a good one. And
he was a good one. I hunted with him. I remember him, tree dog. For sure.
Yeah, and I gave a young man down here in southern Missouri a 2-year-old out of him, and the dam is out of Logan and Banana. And I'm in a shape where I can't train a young dog, but this boy can, and he's got him running tree coons and just, you don't have to hunt them at 6 months old. If they've got it in them, you can hang on to them till they're 1.5 years, 2 years old. And if they've got those genes, shoot, there you go.
You're exactly right, Jim. And we get so enamored by these 5-6 month old wonders and all. But when I was a kid, we didn't really worry about a dog much till he's approaching 2 years old. I didn't really think he's just an old pup, probably just be out there running trash if you weren't careful with him, And so my dad didn't get too excited about that at all. Well, you mentioned that cross there with Bill Harrell's Logan dog, who's been a big winner. On the big stage, and then my buddy Gordy Schrader down here in Florida with Bayou Banana, and he's bred her, I think, about 4 times, and he's gotten good pups from those litters, and he's got one called Ben right now that's a Grand Night Champion he's
a litter mate to my female. I remember that. Little tree dog. She's a dandy little dog. I just love her. She had 1 litter out of tracks, had 8 pups. She's 2 days early. I went down there to pen, and all she likes is biscuits. You give her a biscuit, and she's happy. Well, she was wanting her biscuit, so I gave it to her, and I thought, you look a little different. So I raised the lid on that doghouse, and there was 8 beautiful brindle pups, all in a big bundle. and they was all perfectly dry, and every little belly was full, and they were just sleeping away. There wasn't none of them crying, wanting or needing anything. And I said, honey, you're the best, because I've looked for a female like you forever. I've had a lot of litters, and half of them would be there, gone, mashed, and all that, you know.
Well,
Oh,
that was
she
yeah, that was a frustration for us too, Jim, down through the
Yeah.
years. The plot females, for some reason, a lot of them weren't good mothers. And
Yep.
they were excitable maybe over their puppies, and jump up and pups would go flying everywhere, you
Yeah,
know.
step on them and all
Yeah,
that.
oh, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember all that. Well, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So you got,
I got her, and I've got a 3-year-old night champion that's a grandson of Trax. And we just think a lot of him. He's been hunted by himself a lot and always treat 3 singles about a week ago. But we're going to breed them, and she should be coming in March. And I've been looking at her every day, you know.
Good.
So we're looking. He's got one litter out of a female from Joe Poole up in Idaho. He just hunts mountain lions. But the ones we bred Trax to his good female, and they're all running treeing good. And so we bred Buckshot to her when he came down, 2-day drive down here from Idaho.
Wow.
And when we told him that Buckshots was trained on cats down in the barn, and he has treated as a bobcat in Missouri, he said that's good enough, because old Trax had come up sterile. So, but he drove down here for 2 days. We didn't want him to go home empty-handed, so we got her bred, and she had a nice liver.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Do you remember the last hunt that you took with Warren Wilson?
Yeah, it's down in Morgan County, Stover area where he lives. And I think it was just before season open, because I'm thinking we buried him in November. But he was at the truck, and his little female, the one we gave so much money for, she had cold trailed this track up. Nothing else seemed like they was interested in it or could open on it. And she located that tree and come back and hit it again. And the third time, boy, she settled down on it. We knew we was going to see a coon or a legitimate den tree.
Mm-hmm.
He had a big old nice board on the outside, and the rest of them that couldn't smell it, they fell in the tree with her. And we got back and said, "Oh, old Queen did it there, Warren." He said, "Yeah, I know. I was punching her on the Carmen." Your dogs don't know how to run or a tree, do they, boys? Oh, he digs bad.
Oh, I bet you.
Yeah.
I bet you.
Yeah.
Well, you know that spirit, and I'll speak to that just a minute, real briefly, because it just remembers these stories. You know, if we don't tell them, Jim, they'll be lost.
That's true.
Part of the saving the ones that haven't been recorded or whatever is in retelling them so they become fresh again in our memory.
Right.
I know it's kind of hard for young people maybe to understand that now, you know, because I remember, when I was a kid running around on the farm in Tennessee where my dad was raised, you know, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to what the old folks were saying. But I sure wish I could sit down there now and listen.
Yeah.
But my mother was having a procedure. She was well up in age. She was 90. And I had to take her to the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, which was a considerable ride. I'm going to say probably about 4 hours or so. And her doctor was a lady and a surgeon, and we were talking, and she was explaining, you know, what the procedure was going to be and yada, yada. And Mother's sitting there. And this doctor is looking at me and explaining to me all of these things, okay?
Yeah.
My mother, at 90 years old, interrupts her and says, "Hey, you talk to me. I'm the patient. I'm the one that needs to know these things." The doctor smiled. I smiled. I looked at the doctor and I said, "Welcome to my world." And the doctor looked at me and she said, "That is how you live to be 90 years old."
Yeah.
So I think about that, these old timers, and I know a lot of the kids are thinking that we're just a couple of old timers here beating our gums, but the older people, they seem to retain that sense of humor and those stories my dad, every day of his life when he said grace at the table, he said these words, Lord, thank you for life. And, he used to tell me, I've had a good life, Steve. No matter when I go, I've had a good life, and it's been much enjoyed. Well, Wayne, Warren is a great friend to us, and we'll always cherish his memory. Jim,
Steve, I've still got a bear bone around my rearview mirror that your dad gave me many years ago. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. In fact, a lot of people may not know that a bear has that bacula or whatever it's called, just like a coon does, but it's bigger and it's straighter. And and he gave you one of those, and you still got it, huh?
Still got it.
Awesome.
Yes,
That's awesome.
I tell people that come out of the bear, and Steve Fielder's dad home and gave it to me.
Well, that's an honor for me to have you tell people about that, Jim. Well, buddy, I tell you what, I kind of caught you, unawares, but it's sure been a great visit with you today.
Yep. Well, I'm retired and sitting here at home with this thing around my neck, supposedly healing up. Got to wear it for 3 months.
Oh boy! So you're in like a collar like thing.
Yeah. All the way around. It's keeping my chin up, and that's supposed to help, heal the bones back there.
Well, you need to get all that taken. You need to get all that taken care of before June, so we can see you in Florida.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, I do too.
I hope so.
Well, Jim Garrison, I'm going to let you go for now. I thank you so much for spending the time with me today. I'm going to get you back on here to talk about plot dogs again. Something I've meant to do for a long time, but sure do appreciate your time today, Jim.
No problem. I enjoyed it, Steve.
Okay. Well, you take care, brother, and we'll talk to you again soon.
You betcha. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, I'm here with my White River Refuge buddy, Morris Hardy from the great state of Mississippi. Morris is, I believe he told me 78. Morris, is that right?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
78 years old. Well, you've got me by a couple of years. And our kind of the theme for this podcast this week has been talking about being too old to quit. I wrote a chapter in my book about that, about an older gentleman that had a grandson that was still wanting him to go hunting and was questioning him about why he wasn't going as much as he used to. And right away, I'd say, well, if you were 76 years old, you'd know why. But Morris, how long have you been a coon hunter? It's been a while, hasn't it?
Ever since I started coon hunting, really coon hunting, when I was 21. Yes.
I got you. Well, that's 57 years.
It's a pretty good while.
That's pretty good while. Now, you live in Sardis, Mississippi, right?
I live in Sardis, Mississippi. Yes, sir.
That's right near Batesville, where the Winter Classic just came down here a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, I met you and your buddy Randy Smith. I call him Mississippi Randy because I've got one in Pennsylvania by the same name.
Right.
But and you boys have been coming over to the White River, and we've been having some great times over there down through the years. But really, Morris, for your age, I think you do amazingly well in the woods. I don't see that you've slowed down any whatsoever from when I first met you. But
well, seems like I slowed down a little bit, Steve. I'm kind of like a fair weather hunter now. I don't go on the rainy nights like I did in the younger days, but I still hunt 3-4 nights a week. Yes.
Well, that's a lot of hunting for a guy our age, and is it what keeps you going? Why do you continue this when most people have quit by our age?
I don't know. Sometimes I think, to me, if you quit life early, life will quit you early. So that's the way I got it figured anyway. I'm going to hunt probably I'm 78, so I figure when I hit about 90, I'm going to slow down a little bit. That's just me.
Well, I spoke with Jim Garrison earlier about his friend who's now passed on, but he hunted until the age of 97. Just shortly before he passed away. And, that seems to me like a reasonable thing. Maybe I could make it another 20 years.
Yeah.
The one thing about this game, I think, is the mind's willing, but sometimes the body's not able to keep up with it. But, what do you attribute your longevity in the sport? I mean,
I can't honestly answer that in one question, Steve, but my health is still good, and you just got to play the hand that you're dealt in life, I think.
Yeah.
Just play the hand you're dealt. Yes, sir.
Right. Well, I know that from watching you out there, you're handling your dog, you're making the long walks to the trees when you need to, and show all the visible signs of being able to go on for quite a long time from now. There seems to be a lot of guys that when they get our age, they start thinking about hanging it up or for whatever reason. And I think most usually it's health related. For some reason, there's some kind of a thing. But you said it there, I believe, in that, if you keep going, you keep active is very key. I know my dad, as he got older, he had a bad hip and eventually had a hip replacement, but he waited too long. He was 87, and it never did really help him any. But I think looking back, when my dad's hunting buddies kind of faded away and this and that, and he spent too much time in that recliner and wasn't able. Now, you have a pretty active lifestyle. You live out in the country.
I do.
You look after things. You tend things. You stay pretty busy, don't you?
I do. I stay busy. Like right now, I've got about 10 goats that I'm taking care of, about 30 chickens, and a horse. And I just bought 2 pups. They're a little over 2 months old, so I know I'm dedicated to see what these pups do. So I gotta carry them on through. So I know I got a pretty good while left to hunt. Yep.
Well, I know that you always show up with a coon dog. That's one thing I've noticed about you. And with your Skeeter dog, a crossbred female, is just an outstanding coon hound in my view. And now you've got a young one coming. She's not coming along. She is a coon dog, and Tootie. Yes. Now, is she crossbred or English?
No, she's English. English. She's English. She'll be 2 years old next month, the 25th of next month. She'll be 2. Yes, sir.
Well, you kind of lean toward the English dogs, don't you?
Well, I do because my buddy that I hunted with for 40 years or better passed away, and seemed like he favored the English. And it's just once you get into a breed, I don't know, you just have a tendency to stay there. Nothing against any of them. Nothing against. There's good and bad and everything. My buddy in Ohio, he got me started on some of these English dogs. Ed Bates. We used to hunt together a lot in the old ACHA days. Yes.
Yeah, that's a name a lot of people recognize.
Yeah. I used to hunt with Ed some, and Calvin Hayes, Ed Bates would come to my house every year. If the ACHA World Hunt would be down south, they would stay and come 3 or 4 days or nights and hunt with me before we went to the ACHA World Hunt, and they hunted English. So I guess it just rubbed off on me.
Yeah. Well, I just wrote an article for Bear Hunting Magazine about an outstanding English bear dog, a red-tick dog, up in West Virginia. So, well, that's great. Well, Morris, you're a slender-built fella. I don't imagine you've ever been overweight in your life, have you?
Not really overweight. I'm a little skinny guy, but I got up to 183 one time, and it just felt like I couldn't get through the door. So I went back down to a comfortable weight, about 165, between there and 170.
Yeah.
So I do good now. It just fits me.
Well, I don't think you have any serious bad habits, but we won't go into that. No, I find you're my kind of people. You're sober, you're straight up, you're a lot of fun to be with, and I always enjoy our hunts out there in the White River. You tell me that little story. Do you mind telling on what happened there last night on your coon hunt?
My little English dog is straight as a string, as my old friend used to say. She's straight as a string. We made the last tree, and my friend Randy Smith walks up to the tree. He says, "I see his eye." I tie my dog at the tree. About when I get her tied, Randy goes to shooting. And I heard a rumble hitting the limbs. I looked up, and a flying squirrel was almost to hit me. And I ran out, and I accused Randy of shooting the flying squirrel out to my dog. He says, "Well, I only saw an eye." And I said, "Man." So we looked the tree over. It's nothing there. It's got a big hole in it. So we say, well, at least it was dead. It wasn't slick. So I go to catch my dog, and the coon is laying there dead about 5-6 feet from my dog.
So he did see an eye, huh?
He saw the coon eye, and I guess the coon falling scared the flying squirrel.
Well,
but all I saw was a flying squirrel almost to hit me, and so I ran.
Nubbin tells the story, maybe you remember it, where he was hunting with some old boy up there around Memphis. And this boy had a habit of, I think he was an amateur pharmacist or something there, But people ask him, say, "Why do you hunt with that guy?" And he said, "Because he's got keys to all these gates. That's why I hunt with him." But anyway, he said they were out there one night, and the old boy was off a ways from them or something. They heard the gun go off, and he said, "Well, what'd you shoot at?" And he said, "I don't know, but had a big old eye."
That's a good one. The best one I've had, and the preacher here preached my best friend's funeral years ago in 2007. He told the tale at the funeral that Carl and I were hunting at a pond. Carl's dog was running a track in the pond. I saw a coon on the other end of the pond to go take a puppy down, turn loose on the coon at the edge of the water. Well, when I get down there, the coon goes out in the water and disappears. In a minute, he came back up out in the pond with 2 big red eyes, and it was an alligator. So I go back down to tell Carl about it. Carl's dog got hung on a log with her collar, hung on a log. And Carl goes out to rescue his dog about waist deep, and he gets stuck in the mud in a beaver run. He can't go any further. So he says, "Man, you got to come help me." So I go out first, and I take the collar off of his dog that was hung on this log. The limb ran through her collar, and let her go back to the bank. And then I went to the bank, went back down and rescued Carl, pulled him out of the mud. We get back to the bank, and he says, "Why didn't you come get me before you did my dog?" I said, "Carl, I can find anybody to hunt with, but I can't find a good coon hound every day."
That's right. Priorities, right?
Yeah.
First,
but the alligator was right there at his dog then. By the time I got it loose, the alligator was within 20 feet of us. Yeah.
I live in Florida, as you know, Morris, and there's alligators everywhere down here. If I take my kayak out and go on one of these little rivers, fishing or whatever, I run into them, and quite often. But what I don't like is when you get around a body of water at night down here and you see those eyes everywhere. Their eyes shine just like a coal of fire, really, out there.
Yes, sir.
But,
They're red. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep. I've learned.
Well,
in places we got gators here pretty bad. Places we don't. In the summertime, we see a lot of gators here and there. So you just have to pick your places to hunt.
Well, you're a little farther north than I am, and well, I tell you what, buddy, it's good to visit with you always, and that White River trip will be coming up here again this year for 2023. How many years have you and Randy been coming together over there? You remember?
I don't really know. Randy told me about it and asked me that I want to come years and years ago. So that's back when we were in the single wide trailer house.
Yeah, when we had the luxury suite back there.
Yeah, that really nice trailer house.
Come in there drinking my coffee one morning in the living room. I tend to get up kind of earlier than anybody else. And I was drinking my coffee, and I kind of looked around. I heard something move, Of course, we had a resident mouse or two in that place. Look around there, and here's a guy sleeping on the floor there behind the chair. I said, whoa, man, that's pretty rough. We'll find you a bed somewhere. That was old Morris Hardy.
I remember that guy sleeping behind the sofa.
Yeah, I bet you did. Oh, boy. Well, that was a couple years there where we didn't have the best accommodations, but we sure had fun, didn't we?
Well, we had fun. That's all that counts.
Absolutely. Well, now you and Randy have really, how they say, raised the bar when it comes to cooking in our hunting camp. You do the fish fries, and now it's got to be frog legs. And then this year, which was a surprise to me when I saw it over there on the sink, I said, I don't know if I want any of that or not. It was that rattlesnake. Man, that was good.
All I can say is from now on, Steve, if I see a rattlesnake in the woods, he is in trouble. He's coming home.
I guarantee you that's some good eating right there now.
Yes, sir.
Well,
laid rattlesnake.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit. I'm going to let you go about this Tootie female you got. How old is she, and kind of about what she's doing, it's like to hunt with her?
She'll be 2 years old the 25th of next month. I'm pretty sure of that. Yes, sir. And I don't remember really. Steve, I'm getting to the age I can't remember. I don't remember the dog that she's out of, and I think he's Georgia. I saw an ad on him, but I can't remember what it is. He's a Grand Night champion out of Georgia, is all I can tell you.
Right.
And I bought it from a boy out from Chattanooga, Tennessee, sight unseen. I like what he said about her, so I just bought a pup. And I met him in Huntsville, Alabama, and picked up this pup when she was about 8 weeks old. Mm-hmm. And then everything fell in place from there.
Yeah. Well, I really messed up this year at the White River. Because
kid just came to me. Steve, excuse me.
No.
She is out of a dog called Swamp River Crow.
Okay.
That's what she's out of.
I got you. Got you. Well, some of our listeners out here will know who that dog is for sure.
Oh, yeah. I may be wrong on the state, but I know he's out of Swamp River Crow.
I got you.
Yes.
Well, I was going to say there, I kind of messed up this year. My buddy from North Carolina came out, and it was his first time out to Arkansas, and we kind of, he had side-by-side. My four-wheeler wasn't running.
Yeah.
And so I ended up hunting with him about every night, and I didn't get to hunt with you boys like I'd like to every year. So I didn't get to go with Tootie this year, but I sure look forward to it next year. I'm going to make a point of getting around and trying to hunt with everybody, because that's the fun of it to me, is getting with the different guys and the different dogs and all that stuff.
Well, you got a good acting buddy. I liked him. He's a good fella.
Yeah, he's a good guy for sure, and he's done well with the dogs, and he keeps me in the coon hunting game. He and this young fellow over in Virginia. And then the other Randy Smith in Pennsylvania. They send me videos all the time of their hunts and all, and that's keeping me, active. Otherwise, I'd probably in this subject of when is it time to quit or have I entertained those thoughts? I certainly have myself.
I don't give up on us yet, though. Now you still young.
Well, I'm going to try, and I'm going to try to get myself in a little better shape. Yeah. Well, Morris, I appreciate so much the opportunity to talk with you, and thank you for your time today. And hope you have a good day. You and Randy going tonight?
Well, the weatherman said it's rain coming. The thunderstorm's supposed to be here at any time or right afternoon. So I don't know if we're going to get to go tonight or not. We're just going to wait to see what the weather does.
Well, it's great to be at a time of life, I think, that you can just say, if the weather permits, I'm going, and have a good hunting, buddy. You've got one of the best right there.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I say you've got one of the best in a hunting buddy there.
I do. I do have a good one.
And he does too. I will.
Yes, sir. He's a good fella.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Good dog, man.
He's a little under the weather right now, but he'll be okay.
Well, I sure hope so. Yeah. Randy Smith has trained a lot of good black and tan dogs. A lot of people have parted with that long green to get something that Randy's trained because he's just a hard hunter and a good dog man.
Every night hunter. He'll hunt. He'll say just a short hunt. I'm going for a short one. But he'll hunt almost every night.
I bet you. I bet you.
He does.
Real coon hunter. They still exist out there, Morris. They're still out there. All right, buddy. Well, you have a great day. I'm so glad I got to speak with you, and we'll see you. If I don't see you before, I'll see you in Arkansas.
All right. I thank you a lot, Steve, and we didn't miss you at the Winter Classic this year.
Oh, I miss going, but we'll make her next year. Okay.
Good.
That's Morris. Yeah, that's Morris Hardy from Sardis, Mississippi. Well, okay. I enjoyed talking with Jim Garrison today, and also with my old buddy Morris Hardy from over in Mississippi. And now I got the main man on the line, the guy from Sterrett, Alabama, the one and only Nubbin Moore. What's going on, Nub?
Well, nothing. I'm just sitting right here now waiting to talk to you.
You've learned if you run with me very long, you're going to end up waiting, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. You wait and you podcast and you talk, and then you'll talk to somebody else, and then you'll get back with me.
Always go back to my old bud, though, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's right. How long we been running together?
I guess it was in the late 80s, wasn't it? And
whenever you got, the first time around was at the Autumn Oaks when you won that. We've told people about that enough. They probably know the story by now, but that's a pretty big deal, man, to win Autumn Oaks, not just your breed, but the whole daggone thing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was talking to Ed and Gingrich one day, and he said, "What's the difference in winning it now and winning it when you were there in '84?" And I said, "Well, the main difference is I get a bunch of prizes now. All I got was a plaque." I did get a silver setting because it was the 25th anniversary.
Yeah.
But I didn't get a light and trackers and dog boxes and all that stuff like they do now.
A TV deal and a book contract and
that's right. Yeah.
And they didn't even call you and ask you to come on, let's make a deal or American Idol or anything.
No, there wasn't nothing. There was nothing. You just got that trophy and put your dog in the box and come on home.
Well, back in that day, I used to say, if I die, put it on my tombstone. Recognition is the name of the game. Well, that's about all we got back then, wasn't it?
That's exactly right.
Like a guy said, it's kind of like wetting your pants in a dark blue suit. So you get a nice warm feeling, but nobody notices it.
That's right. Nobody knows the difference.
That's right. Well, Nubbin, you just had a birthday, buddy.
I did last Monday, the
Yeah.
13th.
Yeah, lucky 13 for
Lucky
Nubbin.
13, yeah.
Always the day before Valentine's Day.
That's right. I was a Valentine baby.
There you go.
I reckon you could call it that.
In reverse, usually the babies get started on Valentine's Day, and then
That's right.
they come around about 9 months later. But
that's right. Yeah.
Well,
I told my grandson, he got married here a while back, and I said, the first baby can come anytime. After that, they're 9 months apart.
That's right. That's what I've heard. Well, the theme of this podcast this time, I wanted to kind of talk to some of the older hunters, because you hear a lot among our friends, guys that are, as Nathan Eds up in West Virginia told me one time, he said, Steve, we're standing in the checkout line. And that, to a degree, is true. And but those of us that are getting a little older, but what I wanted to talk about is those of us who, not particularly me, but my friends and people that I know that are continuing to hunt at an age where a lot of fellows have said, well, I'm going to hang the leashes up and get rid of my boots. I often wondered back in the registry days, they made these veterans cast and stuff 55 and over. Well, man, when I was 55 years old, I hadn't looked back. I hadn't slowed down a bit. Had you?
No, I hadn't. They ought to have it 70 years old.
Yeah. I think that'd be a whole lot closer to it. Now, do you mind sharing how old you are now, Nubbin?
Well, I'm 82.
82.
I'm proud of it. I don't mind telling folks that I'm 82.
Right. Well, you carry it a whole lot better than a lot of us. You still got all your hair, for one thing.
Well, I got plenty of hair, but it's getting gray.
Yeah. Well, okay. We talked with Jim Garrison about Warren Wilson up in Missouri that lived to be 97. And he coon hunted right on up to the time, that he passed, or pretty close to it. I'm reminded of, I believe, the gentleman there in your neck of the woods, Harold Edwards.
Yeah, he's 92 or 3 now.
Yeah, exactly. And spoke with him on the phone not too long ago. And then, of course, Mr. Aaron, Wimp Aaron over there in Winston is his name, in Mississippi, is still an active coon hunter. And so there's several of us that are still, hunting past the retirement age anyway. What about you? What do you attribute to the fact that you're still hunting at 82 years old?
Well, I've always hunted since I was a teenager, or younger than that, squirrel hunting and all. But I just always enjoyed hearing the dogs and having a dog that's half suited me or halfway suited me anyway. And I don't know. I just hate to quit. I'm not going to quit anytime soon. I don't have any plans. I know my hunting buddy Jerry just quit last week. He was my age or a year or two younger, but he told me earlier in the summer last year, summer and fall, he told me, listen, I'm going to hunt this year and I'm going to quit. So he'd been talking that for 6 months or longer. And he called me last week and he said, well, today just as good a day as any, I'm quitting.
That's something I think for most of us, rather than saying, well, today's the day, it's kind of a gradual thing. And if our listeners had known me when I lived in Michigan, and of course I had all that good hunting up there, I was pretty much after it every night, that I could go. I didn't go every night, but I had a family and so forth, but still I went real often. If they'd look at me now, they'd say, well, we're going to take away your coon hunter card. You're just not using it, but it's usually a gradual process with us. And I wanted to do this podcast for the older hunters, the ones that are maybe thinking, well, maybe I ought to just, just not get out here and try to make this effort, because it is an effort. It is a lot different. What would you say the main differences you see now in coon hunting and back there when you and old Hank were winning Autumn Oaks? I mean, as far as yourself personally.
Oh, well, back then I could go and hunt. I used to hunt. Well, I hunted 2 or 3 nights a week all the time, but on Friday night, me and my hunting buddy, we'd hunt all night long and turn loose one time after daylight, just about every Saturday morning. But now, if we go make a tree or two, then I'm ready to quit and go home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference that I see. Rather than hunting all night, I just enjoy getting the dog out. The dog needs exercise, and it stays up there in the pen behind the house all the time. It don't get any. So right now, I used to go 2 or 3 times every week. I never was one to hunt every night like Marsh and Randy Smith over Mississippi. They hunt just about every night. But, I just never have done that. But now I try to go at least once and sometimes twice a week, and that's about all I hunt.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to my buddy Keston Jesse up there in Virginia. I've had Keston on the podcast a few times, and he and a friend up there had said they were going to go. I won't divulge the place or his hunting territory over there, but this is a big area. There's a big creek and a lot of what we call hollers in the mountains, or hollows feed into it. And their plan was just to go in at dark and send the dogs up a hollow, and if they treed up there, then good, then get them and drive on up and turn them up the next hollow, and they plan to hunt all night. Well, Keston's, I think, 28. I may be missing that a year or two. When you're a young man, you can think about things like that, and things like that are fun, and to get out there and pull those all-nighters, and I've certainly done that a lot of times. Sometimes it wasn't by design. We'd lose dogs back in the day there.
Oh, yeah.
But that doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me right now.
Well, I started to say I couldn't. I probably could if I wanted to, but I don't. I probably never hunt over 2 or 3 hours anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think at our age, our priorities change. I mean, we're not trying to prove anything to anybody. No. Really. I mean, we're too old to be thinking that way. Because we can't get out here and run with these young guys, and we can't train a dog the way these younger guys can do, probably, or at least give in mentioning training. I mean, being out there and keeping that dog busy in the woods the way a younger fella could. But
if you got a young dog, you got to hunt it pretty regular,
No substitute for hunting one, is there?
No, you can't hunt one time a week and train a dog.
Well, I think, and I've already been reprimanded by some of the young hunters that I sometimes, when I talk about younger hunters, I kind of sound like I'm putting them down, and I really am not. But I am trying to encourage them through the means that I know will work. If I don't know and I'm just blowing hot air, then absolutely don't listen and just write it off. But some of the things I know will work, and that's one of the things there is, you do your winning through the week, really, because you're out there with that dog, learning all about him. And then on the weekend, that's when, they write the checks. But the winning, in my view, gets done Monday through Thursday, let's say. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, you got to keep them in the woods, and you got to train them where you can go to hunt on the weekend.
All right. Well, back in our day, we kind of looked forward to those weekend hunts. And what was your routine? Did you kind of watch the magazines to see where the hunts were coming from? Or?
I would. I'd watch the magazine, and then I would see, my back when I was hunting in the hunts regularly, if it was one within 100 miles, I would try to go to it. But if it was over 100, now I have gone to some over 100, but I'm talking about just regular Saturday night hunt. Then if it was over 100 miles, I wouldn't go.
Right. Well, now with the PKC and UKC and AKC is still having some events, and there's the ACHA events, I guess, and then Pro Sport has introduced these high dollar money hunts. I think my guard dog is on duty.
Guard dog sees a squirrel in the yard, or he sees Ella coming in one.
That's probably what it is here, for sure. Yeah. But anyway, this is a dog podcast, a coon dog podcast, and that's a black and tan you hear in the background there. Mm-hmm. A long-haired black and tan.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't know where we were before I got interrupted by Louie. But anyway, the guys that are hunting, the younger fellows and the new hunters and all, the more you can get a chance to get out with that dog and spend time in the timber. The dog needs it. He needs the exercise. He needs the experience. And so do you. And that's probably one of my biggest problems is trying to stay in shape at my age.
Well, you know what? I don't care how much I try to do. I don't do it as much as I ought to. Mm-hmm. And I'm not nowhere near in the shape to hunt all night if I wanted to. But, I still have to go.
Right, sure. Well, your friend Jerry Hanna, we'll mention him, a nice fellow. I had the privilege of hunting with you and him there at their hunting camp a couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago, I guess it was. Yeah. And but his dog is getting older, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why he's thinking about, or has made the decision that he made.
Well, he told me here a while back, he said he's 10 years old now, and I've never hunted a dog past 10 years old.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a challenge for us, for we guys that are a little older. I say a little older. I'm 76, so I'm not that far behind you, Nubbin. But
I don't want you to catch me either. That means I'm pushing up daisies somewhere.
Yeah, we won't ever catch up with you, but no, that training a pup aspect, and I think for the older fellas, I think the best way to do that is the way you did with the dog that you have now, Kate, your Walker female. She was about 3 years old when you bought her?
No, she was just 2.
2, okay.
She was 2.
But she already had a first place win in UKC, I believe, right?
She did. She had a first and the second. I guided her one night. I didn't have a dog hunting. And, I had one and I called him. But anyway, and then I was guiding Cass, and I guided the cast she was in. And she had 3 first trees and had 3 coons. And I didn't think nothing about it. And then about a month or so later, we had another hunt here at home. So he showed up again, and I told Jamie Perry, and he was a master hound. I said, I had to guide one cast. I said, I want to guide that cast. So, and she won that. When she already had a first, but wound up, no, she had a first, and she won a third that night. Because the guy was playing defense. He said, I don't need a first. I've already got one. So he had waited about treeing her,
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, why don't you tree the dog? It's not mine, but I know she's tree.
Yeah.
But anyway, he said, I'm just playing defense. I just want to win this cast.
Yeah.
And he did. And so I asked him about it. I said, hey, you get ready to sell that dog, let me know. I might be interested. And he said, well, she's not mine. And he said, I'm hunting her for Ricky. And he said, if he decides to sell her, I'm going to buy her. So I thought, okay. So I pretty much forgot about it. And this was in the fall of the year. And then months later, something went by, and he called me. A little while before Christmas. It was like the latter part of November, 1st of December, maybe. And he said, Nubbin, if you want that dog, you need to call Ricky, because I can't buy her right now, because I got to buy Christmas for these 3 boys I got.
Mm-hmm.
So I called Ricky, and he priced her, and I told him, I said, can you meet me at the Jack's down the street, down the road here, about 10 miles? And he said, yeah. So I went in yonder and got a little money from my bride, and went down there and bought her. And so I've had her 5 years now, because she's 7 now.
Yeah. Well, the point being there that I wanted to make by asking about that is that maybe for older hunter, if you're considering that, rather than going through all those ups and downs with a pup, you'd probably be better off to find a dog that suits you and buy a dog that's already, treeing coons and don't go through all that headache of trying to train a pup up to make a dog that you like. And of course, you may have to pay it a little more, but you definitely, I think, would save some steps and it'd be a whole lot easier. And especially if they could find one like Kate, because she's been a good one. And yeah, And,
I tell people she is not the best coon treeing dog I've ever had, although she's pretty good at it. But best all around dog I ever had. For as she never hardly barks in the pen, and she poops over to the right of the door every time I go up in the morning to feed her. I just scoop one scoop up, put it in the bucket, and then the pen is clean. I've had dogs that would crap and just track it all over the pen. Every day you had to get a hose up there and wash it out. And so that's good. And she don't bark in the pen. She comes when I call her, and I don't know what else she'd want out of the dog.
Well, that's right. And I think that there again, to make that point, if you get a dog, that's like that, and consider all those things, fellas. If you are considering maybe, well, this is too much hassle for me anymore at my age, think about what are you going to do to replace it, because if you don't go and have some kind of a hobby or some kind of an activity, you're going to find yourself probably losing ground in that physical battle. Because I know my dad, as he got older, and his hunting buddies, the bear hunting became more difficult and all, and he spent a lot more time in the recliner than he should have, and I think he would have probably lasted longer if he had done that. So this podcast is not to preach to anybody, but I know what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to stay more active. I'm going to try to go. I have friends down here that I'm not keeping a dog here at my home right now, except, as you heard before, this dachshund. But I do have friends that will take me coon hunting, and I'm going to be out there with them every chance I get, and I'm going to go on those trips up to the mountains and Virginia, North Carolina, and with my buddy Randy Smith in Pennsylvania. And I'm going to try to stay active just as long as I can, because I just don't know a life without these hounds and without my hound friends. I think it would be a pretty lonely life for me.
Yeah, I've had a hound at my house for as long as I can remember. I had one when I was a teenager. And, I raised a litter of pups a little over about 2.5 years ago. And I bred her. That's the only time she's ever been bred. And I thought, well, I need to raise another pup. But when the pups got here, I thought, I don't need another pup. So she didn't have but 4. So I got rid of. I let the coon hunters have them. Mm-hmm. And 2 of them made pretty good dogs, from what I can hear. I hadn't hunted with any one of them, but anyway, one of them I don't know what happened to it. Mm-hmm. But the other 3, I know they do okay. As far as I know, they're not world beaters, but they treat coons.
Right.
But, I just decided I wouldn't do a dog justice if I had a young dog right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we both can own up to that we really, and I've been fortunate to have these young fellows, Keston and Mark, that they're, Mark's a little older than Keston is, but they're both very much into coon hunting every night they can go.
Oh,
And
yeah.
a guy like that can do a dog so much more good. Well,
Mhm.
listen, we're going to wind this up here, but I wanted to mention another gentleman that coon hunted way into his 80s, or well into his 80s, I believe, and we've mentioned him before, and that was Fred Sanders, your buddy from
Oh, yeah.
the Mississippi area. There, he
Oh,
lived actually in northern Mississippi.
He did. He actually lived in Memphis in his working years, and then he moved down in the edge of Mississippi, and that's where he retired at.
Right. And now Fred lived to be how old? Do you remember?
Fred was in his 80s, but I don't know exactly how. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But he hunted some right up to the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I guess when we get old, we get ornery and cantankerous, and old Fred got that away too. Oh, he'd get so mad. Yeah, I laugh at him every once in a while.
Remember what he always said, and of course, don't use the the colorful language.
Oh, yeah.
But when I'd get the camera out, I like to take pictures of our hunts, and I think the boys enjoy them. But what did he always say?
He said, I always say, we'd have done treat 2 coons if it wasn't this blanket bank movie shoot.
Yeah. He wasn't a big fan of that, and he wasn't a fan of the dogs hunting too far either, was he?
No, he didn't like that. He wanted to be right there close. Of course, when you get older, you don't want to walk in there no 800 or 900 yards. You'd rather be out there 200 or 150 yards.
Yeah. Well, when he come to White River there as he was getting older, he'd kind of like to get back home and sleep in his own bed, didn't he? He didn't like to stay away too long.
He didn't do that.
Right.
I haven't got that way yet. I don't care. As long as it's a good bed, I don't care where it's at.
Well, that's right. Well, we got to get out there on the road. Autumn Oaks is coming up this summer. We got a plan to be up there for sure again, and all. But the thing about it is that I think about here, coon hunters out there, no matter how old you are, or what your station in as far as your health or your work or anything else. Every day the sun comes up, that's another day older that we're getting. And we can't stop that process. But the point is to find yourself some good friends and get yourself a good hound if you don't already have one, and get out there and enjoy it. And I know that I'm finding that the younger fellows are being very gracious to me to say, Steve, don't worry about it. If they're in there deep, I'll go get your dog or whatever.
Yeah, they do that all the time.
Yeah. And, so, I'm not quite to that point yet, although those long walks, I don't enjoy them as much as I used to. But anyway, well, listen, this dog is getting impatient waiting for Ella to come back home, and I guess it's time I probably better cut this off. But Nubbin, thanks a lot for recording with me today. I hope you and I've got a lot more trips and a lot more traveling, a lot more coon hunting to do.
That's exactly right. I'm going turkey hunting in April too.
Well, good for you. Good for you. Well, I know you enjoy that. And so anyway, my buddy Nubbin Moore from Sterrett, Alabama, longtime coon hunter, was a black and tan man. Now he's hunting a walker dog. Seems like we all kind of go that way sometime. But Nubbin, it's always good to talk to you, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, Steve. Be good.
Yep. Well, friends, that's going to shine the tree for another week here on the Gone to the Dogs podcast. This thing's going to air on March 20th. We got a nice dark moon, new moon coming up tomorrow. Give you some good dark nights to hunt those hounds and enjoy it. And as the month of March kind of is tripping on toward April. The days are going to be getting a little warmer, and you're going to have some great nights for hunting, and I hope you enjoy it very much. That's going to be it from the old coon hunter, Steve Fielder. If anyone asks you, where is that guy from the hills of West Virginia, you tell him, well, I don't know for sure where he is, but I guarantee you he's gone to the dogs.